if you spend 100 hours a year in any discipline, you're going to get better than 95% of the world. The Harvards of the world couldn't even get interviews. And here I am getting these amazing jobs that they would be foaming at the mouth for. We had a $30 million a target that we were light years ahead of in less than a year.
Adam, so excited to have you on. I feel like we've been talking about how entrepreneurs can network for weeks now. Tell the audience a little bit about who you are and why I'm so excited to chat today.
Man, I don't think you're as excited as I am, because this is, talking about relationships and networking really fires me up. So it's an honor and a
Same.
privilege to be here, Brian. Thank you so much. As for me, my name is Adam Connors. I founded a company called NetworkWise, and we're a relationship company that's in the business of knowing great people and accelerating their success and life in business.
So I know you have a crazy story, a billion different businesses, and now started NetworkWise as a function.
Great. So yeah, coming out of school, did the Wall Street thing, right? Worked on in operations, did a trading floor. Then I got recruited to start recruiting for the Wall Street community, and it was great. I did that and for a bunch of years, and then started my own executive search firm. Again, catering to hedge funds, asset managers, very affluent organizations, family offices, things of that nature, and that was great. And during that time, I also started a small private real estate holding company, and that was great. I built a resume writing business, sold that, had a career coaching business. That was fun too. And then after doing this for years, one of my clients who ran $6 billion decided to go on his own, start a hedge fund, and asked me to be his first hire. It was an opportunity that you don't say no to. It was a phenomenal opportunity, and it raised a few $100 million doing a bunch of specialty finance businesses that were really fun, like esoteric type businesses, not traditional. We lent money to athletes and entertainers. We were involved in the NFL concussion case. We did litigation funding. We did merchant cash advance. We built a really cool lending platform for precious metals. Although we ended up giving the money back to the investors because the timing wasn't right for a business like that. And then I could talk about that at another time. We also were involved in cannabis. We started a insurance agency that catered to athletes and entertainers also. So a lot of like really cool things, right? So working my ass off from graduating college up until my late 40s, and I got out of when after getting out of all of these businesses, I took my first real vacation with my family, and I'm sitting on a beach in Hawaii thinking about, what do I do now? And, what am I good at? And then I was thinking about that, and I'm like, yeah, I really didn't go to a good school. I don't have any post-bachelor, education. Um, what am I going to do? And I started reflecting back, really, on some of the things that I have done and how fortunate that I was to have done all of the things that I've done, especially given that I don't have a pedigree. And I also started thinking about all of the people coming back to the executive search, my executive search days, that came out of the Harvards of the world, the UPenns, the Oxfords, that had these amazing, I mean, they were articulate, they were sharp, they were driven, and they couldn't even get interviews and meanwhile, here I am getting these amazing jobs that they would be foaming at the mouth for. And I say this not to brag, but I realized that there was a common denominator that amongst all the opportunities that I had that they didn't have. And all of those things, the common thread was relationships. I had these relationships where people trusted me. And that trust, opened a tremendous amount of doors. That trust, there's not a single thing, Brian, that I did on my own. There's not a single sale I ever had, not a single project that I worked on, not anything, zero. It was all thanks to these amazing humans that I had the good fortune of getting to know and building relationships that trusted me. So that is what spawned me to start NetworkWise.
And I wonder, um, like these relationships that helped you build these all these businesses, um, it's not random, right? Like
No.
you must have like even though you didn't come from a strong pedigree background, like you must have some skill set that others don't. Like either you have an ability to find people that others don't, or build trust in a way that others don't. Like what do you think your superpower was?
Man, I'm still working on a superpower. Let's be clear about that. You know, but I think that I learned early that I think I was perceptive enough, I should say, aware enough to realize early that people do business with people, not really companies, not necessarily titles. So I recognize that, and I also think that maybe my superpower is identifying good humans and investing my time and my energy in really getting to know those good humans and finding ways to provide value to them. And I think that as a result, I've built tremendous amount of relationships with people that wanted to then see me do well and open a
Hmm.
lot of doors for me. So yeah, I think that's probably my quote unquote superpower.
And like maybe let's break that down a little bit because I imagine to do that you have to find good humans, you have to reach them, and then build their trust.
Hmm.
Um, and that sounds simple, but it's very hard. But once you crack it, like you can build all these crazy businesses, right? Um, do you have is any of that process your secret sauce? Like, do you spend extra time building lists of people you want to connect with, right? Do you like have a way to reach them? Like, what's
So,
your
great questions and really intuitive. I would say we all have access to these people. I don't care where you are, I don't care if you're a gas attendant, or I could even tell you a story later. Remind me to tell you a story about Jason, who became an Uber driver, right?
yeah,
So we all have access. I want to be very clear. Everybody, it doesn't matter, let's say almost everybody, but for the most part, we all have access, right? And then it's a matter of like, how do we create and make that access bigger and better? So we all know people and we all know some good people and good people know good people and great people know great people. So, identify people that you genuinely, like and trust and believe in, and do as much, provide as much value that you possibly can for them, and that's going to compound. And there's a massive return. To me, a lot of people invest. They invest in real estate. They invest in stocks. They invest in whatever it is that they're investing. I invest in relationships, and I call it an ROR. That's a return on relationship. And to me, there's nothing that has that everything else pales in comparison in terms of the returns. There's no higher yielding, better returning asset to me than the people that I invest my time with.
yeah, interesting. Because like I think about like even when I was on the corporate side, there was um, I started at Deloitte in this group that was like a good group, but it wasn't like the best group to be in. And so I would look at the corporate strategy group and be like, okay, I need to get into there. Um, and so I made a list of everyone who would have the ability to weigh the decision and say, yes, Brian can join the corporate strategy group. Um, and so every week I made a list and I made a list of who knew those people. And I was working my way through the list. Like how could I get intros and meet people ultimately to get someone to say Brian's a good guy and then get me into that group I wanted to be in. Um, was your approach as systematized as that, or was it like a little more intuitive?
Yes and no. So what you did was called network mapping, right? So you identified, you
Okay.
knew where you wanted to go, and back in my executive search days, those would be things that we would do, right? Like how do you get to that person? And there's a
Yeah.
chain. How many steps removed are we? And I started in recruiting before LinkedIn was around. LinkedIn made it significantly easier because it tells you exactly how many degrees of separation someone might be that you know. But yeah, I mean, you can be. I mean, that's extremely strategic, and that's great. because you knew the names and then you could figure out how to back into getting in front of them. But guess what? You had to have people vouch for you in order to get to those people, right? So you had to build relationships with those people, and they had to put their name behind you. So you did that, and that what happened was then they put their name behind you. So you built trust with them. That trust became transferable, right? And that's the
Hmm.
beauty of when you build relationships. And trust is the holy grail of a relationship, because if somebody knows you, they'll talk with you. If they like you, maybe they'll let you take them to lunch or dinner.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
but if they trust you, that's when they buy from you, right? That's when they hire you. That's when they confide in you. And that's when they put their name behind you, like what they did for you when you were trying to get to those strategic people. And
Yeah.
if you can get somebody to say your name, the sound carries twice as far.
Interesting. And so network mapping, that's one type of networking.
Yeah,
To me, is pretty intuitive. Like, if you're in entrepreneurship, you're going after customers, you're going after referral sources, you're going after peers, right? And that to me makes sense from a networking mapping perspective.
sure.
What are other strategies that people can use as an entrepreneur to get the most out of networking?
Well, I think they first need to understand what it is, right? Because most people
Sure.
have what I call a cognitive networking malware, right?
Okay.
They don't understand it. And that's the problem. And that's why, our goal is to get people not to network, but to network wise. And what we mean by that is to take a proactive approach to relationship development with the ultimate goal of benefiting somebody else. It's not about you. It's not, what's in it for me. It's what's in it for you. And networking is really transcending connections into relationships that ultimately become your allies, right?
Hmm.
So what do I mean by that? Um, you really got to let go of the misconception of, hey, let me go to this event, hand out my cards, try to sell, and if that person doesn't benefit me, they don't benefit me at all. Versus really understanding, I got to go there showing up with what can I do to provide value for you. It's a longer play, but it's significantly more sustainable. You also feel better, and you also reap a lot of ancillary benefits, personal benefits too, not just like financial or short-term goal benefits that you might in a transactional nature of trying to do business with somebody. Does that make sense? I don't know if I was clear about that.
Yeah, and I guess at risk of using a nerdy analogy, but it's a lot of agency owners that might fit listening in. Um, it sounds like in marketing, the difference between running marketing as direct response and trying to get money today versus brand, which is trying to build reputation over time to eventually have a bigger win. And so the networking that you're referring to is, hey, everyone's trying to do direct response networking. They're trying to get in, like, they're trying to network and get outcome right away. We're trying to build a brand.
Awesome. I'm going to use that, by the way, and I'll give you
Just
a
do it.
footnote for now on. That's because
Yes, please
that
do.
yeah. I mean, it's awesome. You nailed it. It's playing the long game, man. It's
Yeah.
it's it, it plays out. And I always tell people life is a game, and for the most part, most sports, it's you've got four quarters. Play for the fourth quarter, right?
Hmm.
Play for the fourth quarter, where most people they're just not proactive about their relationships. They treat networking like a fire extinguisher, only useful in emergency, only,
Yep.
when they need something, and like the worst time to fix your roof is when it's raining, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's for a job or for sale. This is something, again, getting proactive. Plant those seeds, before you need them. Dig your well before you're thirsty. That's an old adage. That's a Harvey Mackayism.
Yeah. And so, okay, so mistakes that people make when networking, biggest one is not being proactive, right? Reactive only when I need it, only when I need the sale, only when I need the peer, right? Whatever.
Because
Um,
because then you feel dirty, right? Then that's why people
yeah.
say, "Oh, I hate networking." You hate that. You hate that type of net. That's not networking. You know, you,
Yeah.
you want to leverage your networks. Sorry, I cut you off midstream, but you
No,
were, yeah.
that's helpful. That's helpful. Okay, so then another question I have then is, okay, one mistake is people are reactive, not proactive when it comes to networking. Only when I need it, not for long-term play. Got it. What about, should people be more strategic with their networking? Or should they allow chaos and randomness to reign?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of I'm a little partial because to me, outside of my family and my health, I can't think of anything more important than relationships. Just can't think like what good is the success of a business or anything if you don't have anybody to share it with. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, yeah, be strategic about your relationships. Yeah, invest the time. A lot of times people say, "Oh, I'm too busy." My argument is, how are I can't think of, because the relationships actually expedite outcomes. When you have the right kinds of relationship, that small investment of time that you make with the right people expedites any type of outcome, whether it's the introduction, whether it's getting you to the top of the class, whether it's helping with the sale. These are things that like you can't put a price on until it's too late.
Mm-hmm. And I guess like when I think of strategic, I imagine there's buckets of connections, right? So you
Yeah.
have as an entrepreneur, you have peers, you have referral sources, you have prospects, customers,
Yeah.
etc., right? And I also imagine there's folks who are ahead of you, right? So the maturity of
Yep.
of that business, there's folks behind you, etc. And so I'm thinking through for my own networking strategy, but
Yep.
long-term brand, like should there be an allocation of, okay, meeting others in my industry, that should be 20% of my networking, right?
Let me
Meeting
ask you
referral
something.
sources.
Can
Yeah,
are you okay with me putting you on the spot? Can we talk about your business for a minute?
let's do it. Roast me.
Okay.
Bring it.
So talk to me. Tell us about who is your ICP, your ideal client profile. Who are the people that you want to be selling to?
So we help recruit in Latin America, plug business in the US. Specifically, we do project managers, and we help train those folks on AI so they're extra superpowered when they plug into the business. The folks that we target are agency owners, typically
When you say
doing
agency, what type of agency? Because that can mean a bunch of things.
digital agencies. So
Okay,
think
digital agencies. Yep.
market,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
typically marketing agencies, that kind of stuff.
Got it. Yep.
Um, remote internet businesses.
Yep.
Um, typically, we like to build teams. That's what we're best at. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah, we're great at individual folks, but we love building the full team. And so, rather than say leadership roles, we'll do team roles. And so, typically, starting 3 million in revenue,
Okay.
3 to 30 is our target.
Okay, and now who are so you got these digital agencies. Is it chief marketing officers? Are they the ones that are writing the checks for you?
Depends on the size.
Okay.
So we have two buckets. One is 10 to 50 employees. So let's
Okay.
flip the employee count for a sec. 10 to 50 is a different strategy than 50 to 200.
Yep.
So at the 10 to 50 range, it's still the founder themselves.
O-
At 50 to 200, then it's typically the COO. It tends to be the person rather than the
Okay.
founder,
Okay.
or the CEO. So it's either the COO or someone who heads up operations.
And then what about, does venture capital come in at all? Are they good contacts for you?
Not really.
Okay.
Like it's a different strategy.
Okay.
It's one that could be interesting to us. We explored it probably 6 to 8 months ago.
Okay.
Um,
So let me ask you this. Let's go back, since you know who so COOs, owners, and then what was the other one? It could be, or those are your main two, or do you have a third? I feel like you said a third and I just missed it.
Yeah, so we have two size avatars.
Yep.
One is headcount, so agency
Yep.
headcount. So one would be 10 to 50 employees, and then
Hmm.
bucket two is 50 to 200.
Yep.
And so in the 10 to 50, that's the founder. In the 50 to 200, that's the COO or the head of operations.
Okay, great. And do you know, besides your services, what are other things that these people need? That's my first question. The second question is, who are the other people that are also going after that target market? Who are the centers of influence? So say you're
Yes.
going after like the client itself. You could spend a lot of energy with this going after this one client that might never do business with you versus if you're building a relationship with maybe even a competitor or an adjacent service that's also servicing, that's also a vendor to this service, high probability you're going one to many because they have multiple clients also. And just think about what would happen if you built a relationship with them and you guys were able to help each other. You'd bring each other in as these companies grow and the opportunities flourish. I'm a big fan of one to many versus one to
Yep.
one. And I've built two businesses by building relationships. I spent the first 6 months just building relationships with centers of influence, not going after the client themselves. And the
Interesting.
gentleman that I was working with, he's like, "What are you doing?" And what it ended up, at least with one of the businesses, we ended up being we had a $30 million a target that we were light years ahead of in less than a year. It was because we had an opportunity through a bunch of centers of influence that funneled us so much potential business. We were able to help each other out.
Hmm. So, okay. Um, so we wrestled with that strategy a little bit. Um, and so when I think about networking, I think of the peers as one bucket, referrals or centers of influence as the second bucket, and target customers as the third.
Yep.
Um, we did go after fractional COOs about 6 months ago.
Hmm.
The There were two problems that we hit. Well, I think one problem is the problem is very fixable, but I'll tell you the problems anyway. One problem we hit was that we connected with 33 fractional COOs, and we found most are great at operations, but not great at acquiring clients. And so they became not great centers of influence.
Yeah.
But for the few that were great. And so that's a strategy that we may be doubling down on as well. And figuring out like what can we offer them back. Like I think everyone does a standard, especially in my industry, everyone does a standard 20% referral bonus, which isn't that exciting because everyone does it.
Huh.
And so trying to design a incentive that centers of influence would be ecstatic to also have and kind of fit together.
Well, have you thought about putting a mastermind together of other centers of influence? So where there's a weekly or you come together with a certain cadence where you're getting together with the whole purpose of getting to know each other and finding ways to benefit each other. I think I shared with you one of our business lines is we run a
Hmm.
private membership group. And those are things that we do. We put together these like micro masterminds, of people that get together. You show up and you come every week with something that you are going to be held accountable to do. You share wins that you've had, you talk about the challenges that you had, and then you come up with ways to make introductions to the other members of the group with people that you know and trust. And
Hmm.
it's extremely powerful, massive knowledge transfer. Right now, you're also building like an army of other people that can, help each other out, and it should lead to business, good business.
Interesting. Um, Yeah, I have not thought about that actually. So far, our best referral offers have been white label partnerships.
Hmm.
So with fractional COOs, for example, they're great at redesigning the business, creating structure, like creating processes, that kind of stuff. But they don't have a recruiting arm to make those processes come to life.
Yeah.
Whereas people come to me with operating problems and be like, I need someone to fix my operations problems. I say, I do the hiring, but I don't do the process design, right? And so there's great synergy there. The challenge is if I have 30 of those, I don't know who to send to and that kind of stuff. Like it
Well,
may feel one way.
so that's where the relationship comes in. Who you've built the relationship with, who you trust, who are you going to feel confident enough to put your name behind, and vice versa.
True.
Those are
Yeah.
that's. how that would work. So so getting back to your original question, it's again spending a little, carving out a set amount of time, each day or each week, that the efforts are really just about providing value to either the potential client or the center of influence. And that can show up in a variety of different ways, whether it's phone calls, whether it's meetings, whether it's finding information that could maybe benefit them, getting, staying ahead of certain trends that are going on, and just being there, being around the hoop. You can't get a rebound if you're not around the basket. So if
Hmm.
this way you've got this proximity, and also if you're known as someone that's looking to provide value as opposed to always someone that's calling or asking, you never want to be the asshole, right? That person when they see your phone number ring or they see you pop up in a Zoom or something and they steer away from you, versus if they know that when you're calling or when you're texting or when you're reaching out that, oh man, Brian, it's Brian. Brian's looking to add value. Like that, they're going to be more apt to take that call, when you do have the ask. But, you can't open up a bank account on day one and just say, hey, I'm going to take out $1 million, right?
Yeah.
You go to the bank and you say, all right, here, you know what, let's start with start with, 5 grand, and then I would go to the bank and I'm going to deposit another 5 grand. And then, that 5 grand and that other 5 grand, it adds and then it compounds. And now you're sitting on a shit ton of money that you can then make lots of deposits. I'm sorry, withdrawals.
It was your
Yeah.
withdrawals. Um, so the interesting and that mastermind idea was fascinating. In terms of like how do you? Because one challenge I have, and I'm sure others do too, is how do we scale close relationships? Um, and the question that I think we talked about earlier is how do we break through Dunbar's number, right? Dunbar's number of I think he was a psychologist who said that you can only have up to 150 close connections, right? And so
Correct.
hearing that, that makes me think like, oh shoot, I can only have 150 referral up to customers and referral partners and blah blah blah, right? Um, how do you is the mastermind one way you've cracked scaling more than
Cor-
150 close relationships?
Correct. I mean, first of all, that's a little outdated, just so you know. That
Yeah.
was done outdated. Now with the technology that's out there, that you can have a heck of a lot more than that 150 number. The 150 are the people that you really know. You know their names, you know their families. Like that there's levels of intimacy in that 150, right? And 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 that number's fascinating too, by the way. You know what the average number of people that attend a wedding are? It's
Mm,
150. You know how many?
150. I
You
was
want
thinking about it. I was like, huh,
the average amount of people that attend a funeral? 150. The average
no
amount of
way.
villages or whatever. It's really interesting how that number played out. That's kind of where a lot of the where he came to those numbers. But but that number, those numbers move in and out. Like even if let's just say that you are only the average person is only capable of really kind of storing 150, and you've got to think average, right? And I'd like to think that you're probably not average, and most business owners are not average. They're not average. So, but let's just say you are. That 150, that number, it's not a static number. That number can move in and out. So some people are going to come and go in your lives, and that's okay. And you just got to focus on the number and the people that are good quality humans and are people that are going to be worth your time and your energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, and so two questions, you can kind of choose your poison, which eventually you want to go down. Um, so I've heard you say good quality humans a few times.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is that like folks who support you and align with your strategic direction?
I identify that as hard to really quantify, but I think the people that are aligned, yeah, I think with like your values and that are really sharing a similar sentiment of, of reciprocity. And I don't mean reciprocity of, hey, if I give you this, you give me that, not a quid pro quo. I mean
Right.
reciprocity is as thinking of in terms of, hey, Brian, I want to genuinely help you. and that those people genuinely want to help me. Those are the kinds of people, or just good-spirited people. They don't necessarily have to come in and shake, hold hands and say kumbaya. I just mean like in the spirit of really genuinely looking out for your best interest, as opposed to a lot of the corporate sharp elbows, if you will.
Yeah. And so I imagine there's almost two parts to it, where one is reciprocity, and then part two is probably that you, not that you have similar goals, but that you can support each other because you're climbing a similar mountain.
Yeah, but it doesn't even have to be a similar mountain, right? Like you'd be, I love these stories. There was my Hoboken Lou. I'm sorry, Dunkin' Donuts Lou, my guy where I used to get coffee from. This guy was fantastic. I love this guy. He benefit me? Does it on paper? Does the coffee guy at Dunkin' Donuts provide any value for me on paper? Probably not. But this guy was fantastic. He was just a good guy with a good spirit, and I would talk to him every morning. He asked good questions, got to know each other. That guy, man, he helped me out, and he made introductions for people that helped with my business. I played basketball for fun. He helped me get into some of these runs just because he was genuinely a good guy that listened, that cared, and that was, again, proactive with the relationships that he was developing. And that's the other reason you can't really sleep on anybody because there's utility in everybody and in every conversation. So it's really a matter of investing a couple of extra minutes to ask some questions that are sincere, that show that you care, and you'll get a sense for who somebody is. And you're not going to connect and bond with everybody, but more often than not, you will if you are genuine about caring and being curious and being helpful with others.
Yeah, and I wonder, because if I think of my networking bandwidth, right,
Sure.
the amount I put into networking, I imagine that there's a heavy percent of it is strategic, where it's we're going in this direction. I need others who are going this direction too.
Yep.
Let's try to meet more. And I don't know what percent that is,
Sure.
80%. I'm making that up,
Yep.
right? But then it sounds like there's a chunk of it that you want to allocate to randomness, right? To
Yep.
roulette networking,
Yep.
right? Which
Yep.
is like,
Yep.
you never know who, like, be nice, be open and nice to people who may not be on your list, but you've come across them in life.
Yep.
Versus there's people you have to go out of your way to find, who are the people on your network map who you have to meet to help climb that mountain together.
Correct. So, a couple things.
Yeah.
Um, Getting back to, I think you had asked me earlier, I forgot how you framed it. Was it a framework or a methodology or thinking? And
Yeah.
and and it's really, um, let me ask you a question. Do you control your destiny?
I believe I do, and I know most people probably don't. And I think whether it's true or not, it's a useful belief. And so
Okay.
I like to think I do,
So
even if
so so I appreciate you keeping an open mind because I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to say that you do not.
do it,
I'm going to
do
say
it, bring
that
it.
what you do control are your habits, and your habits
Yeah.
dictate your destiny. And the reason I
Okay,
say that
I buy that.
is now it's a matter of, okay, well, what are the habits that I need to incorporate in my life that are going to help with whatever that destiny looks like? And there are certain habits, networking habits, if you will, that once they kind of get into your repertoire, you don't it just becomes who you are. So to answer your question, there is going to be some specific time that is allocated for certain types of building relationships with certain people. But once you build certain habits that just become part of your repertoire, you're going to be living a lot. It's just going to be part of who you are. It's going to be the ethos of Brian. So, and
Hmm.
then again, getting back to that's going to compound, and that's where people are going to be thinking about you as you've thought about them, and doors will start opening.
Interesting.
And there's something else I want to say because I know this sounds for people that this is very foreign thinking, and it might sound like, oh my God, this is a lot of work and this is overwhelming. And in the beginning, just like anything, it is, right? Like you can't go to the gym and just start lifting 400 pounds, right? Like You got to you got to do the bar, and then maybe you throw a couple plates on there. Or maybe if you want to run a marathon, you don't just jump out one day and run a marathon. You've got to get into the mindset, then you got to walk, and then maybe you got to run, and then it's a mile, and then a 5 miles. Well, the same thing with building relationships and habits. And the best analogy that I can think of is that networking, it's like a rocket ship launching. And what happens with a rocket ship uses 85% of its fuel on the liftoff. And
No way.
yeah,
Really?
and then it only takes 15% after that. That's to get to the destination and to return. And networking, it's a lot of the heavy lifting is done in the beginning. And then everything else is just 15%. It's a real de minimis amount. It's just the touch points. How you doing? What's going on? And nowadays with AI, there's probably a lot of agents that you can set up that can at least keep a lot of that communication flowing. And if there's someone that
Yeah.
knows AI, I have a feeling you'll figure that out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that because it if that 85% jet fuel at the beginning, right, 15% maintenance,
Yeah.
but I feel like I'll speak for myself. The part of networking that I mess up the most is the follow-ups. The follow-ups, the follow-ups, the follow-ups. I love talking to people, but God, I just keep forgetting. I forget. I can't track them. I don't know who I talked to, who I didn't, right? Um, tell me about, I imagine you must have some tips
So
for
so so
ADHD folk like me.
First of all, I appreciate your candor, and you're not alone, by the way. I mean, listen, um, first and foremost, fortune is in the follow up and the follow through. It is arguably one of the most important things. And for me, I can't. To me, if I'm not gonna follow up, I don't bother because to me, it's like a wait. Like time is the most important commodity we have on this planet, right? And you don't get that time back. So if I'm gonna spend the time getting to know you, Brian, and talking with you, you're damn skippy. I'm gonna follow up. For me, not following up is the equivalent of like filling up a bathtub and not putting in a stopper. Like, why bother, right? So that's ingrained in my head. So the importance of the follow up is paramount. It is so important because there is a sea of mediocrity that doesn't follow up. And I don't say that to be a dick. It's just most people don't, right? You meet people, we're busy, man. We are busy, and things add up. So um, now what's really nice is nowadays you've got these voice things, Claude, and there's recorders and all these kinds of things. So, and I actually just did it. I just came from a lunch, and on my walk back, I left a ton of notes for myself about who I met, what I liked about them, what value I could provide for them, and how I should follow up. And then what I will do, either when we're done or first thing in the morning, I will go back and I will send that email, customize that LinkedIn. I'll do those kinds of things. And what I'll also do is then I'm going to set a reminder to follow up again in 30 days because no one's doing that. And 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 you know what? Even if it's just to touch base, just to see how they're doing, I care. I show that I care. And even if there's nothing that we can do right now, at some point our lives are going to, intertwine again. That's the way that I look at everything, that we're not just meeting now, we're going to meet again. And now we have a more of a baseline and we have a history, and both of us can look back on that. And because a lot of times people will say, "Oh shit, you know what? I forgot who Adam Connors is. How do I know him?" And if they Google, or if they check LinkedIn, they'll see a thread, or if they check their email, they'll see a thread, or if they check their text, they'll see a thread that shows what, and I'm very thoughtful on what when I respond. Hey man, Brian, it was awesome. I had a great experience on your podcast. I really liked your thoughtfulness, the questions, how prepared you were, blah 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 blah. And then those are going to be things that are going to trigger our conversation. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh my God, that and the things that now you're going to be more inclined to remember our conversation, and then to be more inclined to actually want to engage or maybe you're not going to want to engage because you didn't like me, but but hopefully
Happens
you did.
often. Um, Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of pain, especially for me around the follow-ups, right?
Yeah,
Um,
you're not alone,
and
man. There
so
should be a
I
therapy group.
there
Yeah,
should be a therapy
yeah,
group, a follow-up therapy group. So let's go to therapy a little bit.
yep.
So imagine like I love this conversation. I met you. Let's use me as a use case. I had a great conversation with you. Really enjoyed it. Loved it. Um, and I also have a great conversation. 150 atoms, right?
Yep.
How how do you
So you
like
can't there's
manage it?
systems you can put in place, right? A system. So those are systems. That's again your AI or whatever. So there you could load in a bunch of people just to say, hey, Adam had you on the show. Adam 2 had you on the show. Adam 3 had you. All those things. It was a great experience. Here was the feedback, or you were giving great feedback. Make us feel good,
Yeah,
right? Um, and then you can set it again. I mean, your email cadence with me before was excellent. So you've done
thank
that
you.
ahead of time, and so I had this great. I've already came in with this great, like feeling about how you operate. Man, imagine how you're going to stand out if you do the same thing on the back end, which is actually more important. That's going to make a bigger difference. But to answer your question, so that's one way to just kind of like systematize it, but then you can't give everybody the same information, right? So maybe Adam 1, he's nice guy, maybe a subject matter expert, but maybe you don't vibe with him. Or I don't know. You got to pick and choose, but there are some people that are worth that you just genuinely like, and maybe that you can genuinely see benefiting him or her, or vice versa. Those are people that you are then going to maybe put into a different bucket of system. That like, hey, let's set up a quarterly call or whatever that might be. Or maybe they're in a
Yeah,
newsletter, or there's a value, there's some kind of value. You're keeping them in some type of pipeline, where you're again being around staying around the rim, right? That proximity principle that we spoke about earlier, rather, out of sight, out of mind. But if you are in sight, then you are in mind.
yeah, interesting. Um, because like for like all of that, for what we ended up doing, because I have strong ADHD, so I love these conversations. But going back to update a CRM or something like that has always been a challenge for me.
Sure.
Um, but
Network,
now with
networking.
network,
It's not net
network,
funning, right? Like, sorry to cut you off, but networking.
that's true. That's true. This is fun, but the aftermath is a
Brutal.
lot.
It's a lot.
What I was able to, what I will say is, now with AI, we have recordings of this, and all of our emails, our conversations goes into a central AI brain. And then I've been able to create a CRM that updates itself and lets me know whenever I haven't kept up with something a little bit. Also, one really cool thing is it scans everyone's social media. And whenever there's an exciting news coming out, it
It's
lets me
great.
know so we can like say hi to folks. That's been great.
That's awesome. That takes a lot of work off of your plate. That's a great tool. That's excellent. Love that.
Yeah, it's been helpful. It's been helpful. Um, okay, so the tracking thing, network, got it. What about um, being ghosted? And
Mm,
so let's say with you, like you may have great intent, we had a great relationship, I reach out to you, and like you're busy, and so I may not get a reply.
yep.
Do you continue to like how much
Depends.
do you
You know
maintain the
what? So,
relationship?
so, so I don't know if there's um, a subjective answer. Or I'm sorry, it is subjective. There's no objective answer to that,
Right,
right?
right.
Like sometimes I actually I found out the other day that there was someone that I've had a relationship with years or whatever. They were not getting my emails. It went into spam, right? So thank goodness I had their text or whatever. And I,
Yeah.
I sent a text, say, hey, Brian, did you give up on getting back to me? Like, so, and they're like, oh, what are you talking about? And it turned out it was, so there are a lot of reasons that people might not,
Right.
especially nowadays. Email is just like it's just, and even text these days. So it's harder to do that. But to answer your question, that's a judgment call. It depends on who they are. Sometimes, it's addition by subtraction.
Mm,
People self-select out, and
yeah.
it's sad sometimes. But to me, that's why when I come across somebody who, again, getting back to that good quality, you're stuck with me, man. I'm like, I'm gonna stalk your ass because I know how good of a person you are, right? And
Yeah.
that will show up in so many other facets of life. So the ghosting does happen. It happens more and more, but the irony is it's those people that ghost, they're the ones that don't get the relationships, and they're the ones that complain when shit goes sideways because
That's true. That's
they
true.
don't, and they're the ones that need you. Um,
That's true.
yeah, and they're the first to
Ghosting
complain.
is tough.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially when you have such a good relationship and you thought you had a good relationship. Um,
yeah,
what
it's sad.
about yeah, and what about so when you reach out, have you come up with any creative ways to give value to folks?
Um, Creative. Let me think about that. I mean, I just try to think about, if someone once told me that, empathy or is caring about the people that you care about what they care about. I don't know if you're able to find that. So
Caring.
caring
Yeah.
about the people that you care about what they care about. So let me ask you this. So you like to travel, you're a nomad. What are other things that you do for fun? Let me ask you that.
What are other things I do?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I nerd out on I nerd out on business for sure. Like that to me is like a hobby and a passion. So I'm
Okay.
very passionate about
And
that.
anything in
But
particular? Anything in particular? Like, so, okay, so maybe it's like a book, like biographies, like, or other podcasts on other business, people, right? Or is there something else?
yeah, I mean like outside of business, like I'm learning my girlfriend's from Rome, so I'm learning Italian.
Wow.
Also studying history. I love studying history. But on the business side, I think I love puzzles so much. And
Okay.
like to me, business is a puzzle. And so I love like cracking new business models or like solving problems, that kind of stuff.
So there are a bunch of things that you just said there, right? So I heard, obviously, anything business related. I heard Italian, I heard girlfriend. I heard a bunch of things, right? That you talked about. I'd write those things down. And now again, especially with the AI, you could probably identify certain triggers that when these things pop up or crawlers that are out there, have it come to you and then share. Share with the, hey, I was just in Rome, or a friend of mine was just in Rome, and it made me think about you, right? These little things that you're touching base. It's an excuse to touch base. You're not asking, you're selling, you're giving, you're being thoughtful. That's really nice, right? How nice would it be?
Yeah.
How nice would it be if you were the recipient of that text? Oh shit, who I don't even recognize his number because maybe you didn't think enough that maybe there wasn't there. But I sent you a text saying I sent you, a picture. I'm in Italy somewhere. Maybe I'm at the Leaning Tower of Pisa or something. And I'm like, oh man, I'm here and I'm thinking about you. Like, oh, that's nice. Someone thought about me. Like it's just,
And
and then when those little things, they're people care. People do care.
and I imagine non-business because it seems less transactional
Yep.
probably has a little more weight to it in
100%.
terms of building a relationship.
100%. What are people? Again, most people are not working for business. They might love business, but they're working because they want to buy the nice house. They're working because they want to provide for their family. They're working because they want to go to Rome. They're working because they're looking to, there's an end. They're doing it for something, right? Maybe it's a charity that they're passionate about. So those are the things if
Yeah.
those are the things that they're going to be most interested in. What's really interesting is I host a private lunch and throughout the years, it's mainly business owners, executives. People have come from all over the world, and I've had some wildly successful people there, business owners. Had a guy that owns a family office was there last week. Another famous actors, actresses, and what I've noticed is really interesting is that the people that really made it, they don't want to talk about work. They don't want to talk
Yeah.
about work at all. They want to talk about philanthropy. They want to talk about their families. They want to talk about their hobbies. You know, it's ironic because they kind of already made it, so they kind of did the other things, but that's what they want to talk about. So those are the things that are of interest to them. That's what's going to capture their attention. That's the value, and that also shows that you were listening to them.
Do you have um, a interesting or not interesting way to get non-business tidbits for later? You know what I mean?
From people.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
like if you're on a, yeah,
yeah, I always I don't start. I will not talk business with somebody right away. I just won't. I'm not gonna talk business. Like I need to know who you are as a person because I might not want to do business with you, right?
interesting.
Personal first, man. And if you go right in for business, I'm sure I miss out on opportunities. But man, again, getting back to what we talked about earlier, you do business with people, not business. So I want to know who's on the
Interesting.
other end of things because for me, man, life is too short, and I only want to spend time with people that are good people that are going to have my backs or maybe want to see me do well. I'm very fortunate that I'm in a position that I do what I want, when I want, where I want it, and I attribute that to surrounding myself with quality people.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, let's say, I wish I'd asked you this question at the beginning, but I'm gonna ask it to you now, right?
All right, yeah.
Um, okay. I know there are networking skeptics, and I think the reason that folks are skeptical, is because I think when we talk about networking, we talk about it in fluffier terms, right? Like,
Yeah.
you'll get generic good results, you'll generically grow the business and have good outcomes, etc. Um, and so for those folks, I want to try to demystify it a little bit. Like, what's the value behind it? And so I remember earlier you mentioned a really cool story about at a Comic-Con. Do you want to tell us the
Yes.
story a little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah. Okay. So, I'm gonna try to. If I say names, please delete them out because it's a cool
Sounds good.
story. So
Deal.
there was a gentleman, a really talented cartoonist, super talented, super bright, um, no relationships, nothing. Could do nothing with it. Couldn't get in touch with the right kinds of people. So I brought him to Comic-Con in New York City. And Comic Con is, right? I don't need to explain. Okay, Comic Con, all these
Yeah,
people
yeah.
come from all over. And anyhow, so I was able to. I did my thing. I was his quote unquote wingman, and I went up to. I forgot the name of this person, but it turned out I didn't know who they were, but they were an extremely famous um, comic writer, I guess. Not Marvel, but of that ilk. I was told that who that person was. So I went up and I just started talking to this person and I made nice, got to know them. Just, again, walked up, introduced myself, asked a couple of questions, built a rapport. And after doing that for a couple of minutes, I said, hey, let's just I'll just call this fictitious person, Mark. And I said, hey, you got to meet Mark. Mark is he's an up and coming cartoonist, really interesting guy, and I think given the type of stuff that you do, you'd really appreciate having a conversation with Mark. So now Mark actually really wanted to meet with this person, but I completely flipped the script. I made it so as if I was helping this guy by introducing him to Mark. Completely
Cool.
got rid of the entire social hierarchy. It's a long story, but the punchline is they got along. They spoke the same language, not the language that I speak, but they spoke the same language. The guy was impressed with Mark. He was able to share some information with Mark about an upcoming competition that was happening in Chicago, and I think at another Comic Con or something, and he made an introduction that Mark was able to then apply to get into this contest. Mark ended up winning $10,000. Not that I mean, it's not that little of money, but it's not that much money. But what it did, it actually got Mark a lot. It got him prestige. It gave him confidence, and it gave him a little bit of money that he then was able to launch his own cartoon. Um, again, I can't say too much because I can't give away the name,
Right, right,
but
right,
but
right.
you understand the genesis of the story. The bottom line is, um, you build a relationship, you switch the dynamic. That relationship, again, getting back to the trust, that guy was able to gave him information that Mark didn't even know about, made the introduction. Oh, he also got him into the contest that you would have had to have submitted a long time ago. So not only was he able to get in, he got right to the front of the line, and who knows if that had anything to do with how he placed. That I don't know, but let's wink, wink, and think that that might have
It's
had
a
something
great
to do
point.
with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting part of that is Mark, in this case, Mark, um, um, was really good at his craft, right? Like he was a great cartoonist, but he can be the best cartoonist on the planet. But if nobody knows he exists, he doesn't have access to distribution. Like he needs people to be able to, like actually get his craft out.
There's my friend Dr. Dawn Graham. She used to work for the Wharton School of Business in their executive placement area. She is a futurist on work. She is she had Dawn on Careers on I think it was Spotify or one of the major outlets. She's a LinkedIn expert. Anyways, she was on my show and she was dropping nuggets left and right, Brian. And there were a couple things that she said that really hit me right in between the eyes, and I think it's going to do the same for you and hopefully your audience. Is that she said, Adam, doesn't matter how smart you are, doesn't matter how good looking you are, doesn't matter what school you went to, your work product, any of that means nothing if you can't get in front of a decision maker.
Right.
So to your point, relationships, networking works. It may not work when you want it to work, where you want it to work, or how you want it to work, but it works. You got to play the long game and trust the process, and it really will pay off dividends. Man, I cannot. I have so many stories of how people have expedited, they've skipped the front of the line thanks to relationships. And you hear people complain all the time, oh, they got hired because they knew somebody. Yeah, yeah, they sure did. You know, you hire people, there's that trust factor. That's a big decision. When your clients are going to hire you, you're building them, you're putting these people on projects, right? They need to know, they're trusting, it's a lot of money over when you're spending money that's the biggest expense is that overhead, right? So that you're going to build relationships with people that are going to trust that you're going to deliver. Can't say enough about the importance of building that trust.
Yeah, and trust, because I'm thinking about the other side of the argument, right? And I saw an interview last week. Guy in the street finds Bill Ackman on the street, right? Runs one of the biggest
Yeah.
hedge funds. I don't
Biggest,
know,
yeah,
I
oh
forget
yeah.
which, Pershing
Yeah.
Square.
Yep.
Um, Finds Bill Ackman on the street and goes over and he was like, okay, what's more important, people or getting really good at the craft, right? Same Naval Ravikant had the same question. They both had the same
Yep.
answer, which is get really good at your craft. If you get really good at your craft, people will find you, right? Which is the opposite end of the spectrum of what we're saying today.
Yep.
Um, there must be a way to balance that out, right? Like in the sense of like you need people to trust you, but I define trust as I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yep.
I do that enough things and we build trust. And so there's probably a balancing act between do you get really good at how do you balance getting really good at what you do and doing everything and doing the activities and networking? Where does the importance weigh between the two?
Sure. Well, I want to address what Naval and Bill both said. I mean, first and foremost, you have to be the best at what you do to get to that stage. So,
Uh,
you're not just good at what you do because there are a lot of people that are good. You got to be the best or elite, and they will find you, right? That is going to happen. But what percentage of people really are going to be the best, or really going to be? Think about how many people. Again, I can just go back to my executive recruiting days. Resume after resume, these Ivy League schools, other great schools, they've accomplished so many things, but they're not even getting meetings. because there's a whole laundry list of other people like that. But guess what? You got this list of other people, but wait till the executive or somebody else comes in and slaps a resume and says, "Hey, I think you should talk to that person." Who do you think is going to get the nod? So to answer your question, though, I'm sorry I've gone off a little bit.
Oh,
I don't know the exact percentage, but I got to tell you, it's a significant. There's a good in your the return on your relationship, plural, will be great if you invest in them. But you got to invest in them, and you've got to stick with it. You again, getting back to you can't just go out and run a marathon, right? You got to consistently run the miles.
yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question.
I think it did, but let's dive into it for a sec because what I'm hearing is it makes sense. Like let's go to the extreme end where you don't need relationships, and that's where you are the 0.0001% of your craft, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Where it is just so insane to find someone else like you that your work speaks for itself, etc.
correct.
Right?
Yep.
But if that's 0.001%, if I'll do public math, if you're in the
Yeah.
99.999%, right? Well, what do we do? And so it's definitely me. um, and so I heard I'm gonna I forget who it was, but talk about how if in terms of business competition, so if you want to be the best, so I run a recruiting business. If you want to be the best recruiter, right? Well, you got a ton of people you're going to compete against. But if you want to be the best recruiter for project managers, okay, that starts to narrow the pod. But if
Yep.
you want to be the best recruiter for project managers to agencies, that narrows the pond. And so it gets, with each narrowing, it gets easier and easier
Agreed.
to
Yep.
be the one of the best. So in this case, the competition goes from you're the best at, let's say, again, marketing agency.
Yep.
Like, okay, if you're the by far the best marketing agency, fine, maybe you don't need a network, it happens. But if you want to be the best marketing agency who also has a great skill at networking, right? Or who also has,
Sure.
yeah, I'm trying to figure to land that plane. Do
Where
you
do
get
you
what I
go?
mean, roughly?
No, I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. So yeah.
I think what I'm trying to say is if you have to be the
Sure.
0.001% of any skill, that's very hard. But if
Yes.
you want to be the 0.001% and if you want to be the best at a skill plus another thing, that starts to get easier,
Yep.
right?
Correct. Yep.
And so if we combine those two, which is you're really good at your craft
Yep.
and you're really good at networking, now you've got outstanding results.
Let me answer that by, are you familiar with the rule of 100? Have you heard of that before?
You need to do 100 like 100 reps of something before
So,
you get good
so
at it.
if you spend 100 hours a year in any discipline, you're going to get better than 95% of the world in any discipline. So,
Really?
so,
Well,
so yeah, 100 hours. So that breaks
I
down to
thought it
less
was yeah.
a
Go ahead,
thousand
sorry.
hours, right? That's what
Yeah.
you,
I
yeah.
was
So maybe no, I think it's a rule of 100 hours. And
okay.
and I think that breaks down to less than, I mean, we can do the math, but I think it breaks down to less than like 20 minutes a day. So
Okay.
if you can break down whatever it is that you're doing in 20 minutes, that gets back to those habits that I was talking about, consistency, again, consistency compounds. So again, maybe those 20 minutes a day, 10 of them are just following up. 10 of them are proactive reaching out. And then you spend the rest of your day on your craft, right? Spend the rest of your day recruiting. Spend the rest of your day
That's
on
true.
project management. Spend the rest of your day. So if you're doing 20 minutes a day on doing something that's going to be about your relationships, again, then you are now in the top. You're better than the top 95%.
Interesting. And like where else do people mess up when it comes to building these relationships?
The follow-up is the biggest. Well, no, number one is not understanding what it is, right? That's that cognitive networking malware that we talked about. Uh,
Yep.
and then the second one is the follow-up. Those are the two biggest. Like again, that's why the fortune is in the follow-up. Think about golf. The trajectory of the ball is all about the follow-through and the swing. Well, same with your relationships. That same how you follow through is going to be where's that ball end up, where your relationships end up. And a lot of times that's what happened, where people again they just go in right for the kill, and that's not networking. at all. That's again getting back to that just so I would say those are the two biggest areas that people go wrong.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I agree, and I think the part that excites me the most is I personally have seen there's the financial side, which is people refer, you meet friends, like on the peer group, peers give you tips on how you grow the business, all that kind of stuff. That's been invaluable.
Yeah.
There's no way I would be where I'm at right now without I had peers like telling me, "Hey, I did this and didn't work. Don't do that," or "I did this, try this." Right.
Uh-huh.
So that's been great. Getting customers is just another form of networking, but then
Yeah.
also getting referral sources is just another networking. So I think at the end of the day, 80% of business is just being able to network, just branded in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that are just such low. Again, the touch points, the pinging, emails,
Yeah,
calls, texts, being thoughtful, um, low friction.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, well, Adam, this has been super fun. And so, where can folks find you? Where can they get more resources? Like, how do we learn to network?
Yeah, thank you. NetworkWise.com, www.networkwise.com, and once you go there, then you'll get access to all the other things. You'll learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we can benefit you. And I hope people reach out to me on LinkedIn if they, like I said, I've got a pretty robust network of people there, and most of the people I know. It's a lot of people, but if people just reach out to me and they don't say why, I just don't accept the invite. So for the most part, they're people that have come across in some way, shape, or form in my life. So, and I asked people that if they do connect with me, just to be open, that I might ask them to take a meeting with somebody else, because maybe Brian, you might see someone I'm connected with, and I believe in if I know someone that and they can benefit someone else, you damn skippy, I want to make that happen. So that's my warning to anybody on LinkedIn that if we're connected, I hope that you would have an interest in maybe seeing how you could help someone else in my networks.
Yes, agreed, agreed. Um, and maybe there's a one sentence on what NetworkWise is.
Yeah.
I think we skimmed
So
over that.
yeah, I mean, look, I told you that we are a relationship company. We have a couple of different businesses, or business lines, I should say. We have an enterprise version of our business, and that's where we help companies build deep, like lasting relationships. So some organizations hire us to help with their sales. That's something that's really important. Or a lot of times with culture, executive culture, because we help people really connect on deeper levels so they're able to function more cohesively as opposed to having the sharp elbows. The other thing we do is we run an executive unlock program. I don't think that's going to be for your audience. That's for people that are in executive positions and they're stuck. Maybe they're trying to get on a board, or maybe they're changing careers altogether, or they're getting that next job, and they don't have networks, or they don't know what to do. We help them. We have a system, we have a process, and we get them connected as a cohort. And the third thing that we do is we run a private membership group of business owners and C-suite executives. And the idea is to support each other with, perspective, peer advice, insights. We put together events for them, get them deeply connected so that they can help each other, like we said earlier, rising tides lift all ships. So
Yeah.
thank you for offering me this platform to share my insights and also to tell you a little bit more about our business.
It's been great. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, well, thanks again for having us on, and we'll chat soon.
Make it a great day. Thank you.